Hello, and my name is Megan Flanagan. I am the owner of 609 Media, and I am a coach at FromWithin Coaching. And today I'm joined by Amy Magyar, the owner and founder of FromWithin Coaching. Amy, welcome.
Thanks, Meg. Thanks so much for having me.
Sure. Today we have a really interesting subject to discuss, and we're only going to have about 20 to 30 minutes. So maybe part one of five, who knows, because I know we can go really deep on this. But one of the questions that comes up for people in my world and your world as well, entrepreneur space, and then people who are interested in becoming coaches is, how do I become a coach? What do I do? Where do I go? You Google this, how to become a coach, and you could get something about being a basketball coach or a life coach or, something in the sports world. And so I had a ton of questions to ask you about how does somebody become a coach, but I want to back up a second because I just, for a few minutes, would love for you to talk about the state of the union in the coaching industry, because there is talk about it being regulated, because right now, if I'm correct, there's no regulation, no government regulation.
Yeah, you were 100% correct, Megan. I think if you do a Google search, how do I become a coach? That is not what you would think, because there are so many schools that have paid to make sure that they pop up first on that Google page. And everything is about getting certified, getting credentialed. Everything is about, you have to go to school. At the end of the day, there's absolutely no regulation currently in the United States, and in many other countries as well, North America, but then even some of the European countries, there's no real regulation on coaching. There are what we call governing bodies that have stepped up. So the International Coaching Federation, ICF,
Mm-hmm.
is sort of a de facto, I don't want to say regulator, but framework that a lot of coaches go by.
Standards almost, just
Yeah,
protect
they're
everybody
sort
with
of the
worldwide even. Yeah.
yeah, totally. And they've sort of said, even though you don't have to go through school, you don't have to get credentialed, there's no regulation, state, federal, none of that. We still feel like there's things that are important for coaches to have and know ethically. Even just the support, ICF supports coaches in terms of understanding certain situations that can come up, third-party billing. I digress, but it is a great framework. But yeah, you are 100% correct. There is not, and it's interesting because people have said to me, well, then you're going to get crackpot coaches. You're going to get bad coaches out there. And I say, you are, just like in any profession. You could still be credentialed and be crackpot. You could still be,
True.
a bad provider or practitioner. What I find with coaching is, at the end of the day, the ones that aren't ethical or aren't doing good work is that they don't tend to get referrals. So they just don't tend to stay in business. So they sort of self-weed themselves out. They may go from coaching to consulting, where they can tell people what to do, versus coaching, which is very much about creating awareness.
Mm,
And so,
great
yeah,
call.
I think that's just, an interesting thing and our governing body really is designed, and again, self-governing body. ICF is sort of designed so that for those of us that have gone through schooling, credentialing, we can absolutely sort of stand above those that have nothing and just put up a shingle and say, I want to give advice. I want to just help people. And they have no background, or they have no listening skills and things like that. Again, they weed themselves out.
Right. It's like, I feel like, and going down this path now for myself as a coach who is not certified, and going down the path of looking, getting certified and following that path, it's interesting to see now what's important to me. And I've been a coach for 3 years now,
Yeah.
like officially called myself a coach. And I struggled with it a lot in the beginning. In fact, I came to you because I said, Aim, I want to be a coach. My current mentor really wants me to coach in her organization, and I just don't feel right. But we had a conversation about my skill set and what she was asking of me. And it was, the fact that I was concerned about it, I think you brought up, was like, well, most people aren't concerned. They just dive in and start, hang a shingle out and say, give me a nickel and I'll give you advice and tell you what to do. And they don't get the skill set that
Yeah.
certification, even just at the basic level of coaching certification, might provide them.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to go on record and say, especially prior to the pandemic, the sort of the feeling on the street was that most likely federal government would probably put some form of regulation on coaching in 3 to 5 years. That did get pushed back just because of the pandemic, and sort of there were so many other things to tackle. But I still think within 3 to 5 years, here we are, I think currently 2023, I think 3 to 5 years, we will absolutely see a form of regulation. It could be that it goes to the states, and that each state, similar to massage therapy, may dictate what that looks like. But I firmly believe it'll probably be a federal mandate, and it will be designed in many ways to ensure that coaches that do put their shingle out have a certain foundation. And that foundation is probably going to be very similar to what the ICF, the International Coaching Federation, has put out in terms of expectations. I'm sure that the federal government, if they're smart, they will reach out to the ICF and say, how do we do this? But I think the full disclosure, the federal government will do it because it's great money for them to have us licensed every year, right? Or every 3 years, or whatever it may be.
Right.
So that's just something. And they'll say that it's good for regulating you. Yet at the end of the day, coaches regulate themselves. If they're truly not telling people what to do, and truly creating awareness, and truly have the best interest of the client and do no harm, then we do a great job regulating ourselves. But I am the first person as an ICF mentor coach to say there is a beauty, and whether it's through the ICF schools or not, there is a beauty in going to take a class or getting some continuing education, because we all have blind spots. And the beauty of school is to help you work through some of those potential blind spots. What's a blind spot? It could be you ask leading questions. So we may think that creating awareness and a question is, have you ever thought about doing this? That's advice giving. And we don't tend to always do that as coaches. It's not ideal. It's more, first, the question is, what have you tried? If you didn't have a coach, where would your head go? What are you thinking? Would be the first step, versus have you ever tried X? And so there's, or, blind spot could be you ask 5 questions in one. So tell me about a time when you had success, and or maybe a time when you didn't have success, and you reached your goal. Like, those were 2 questions that are like, the person's like, I'm not sure which one you want me to answer. So that can happen. So it's good for blind spots for sure. It's, but it's interesting because I'm the first person that says, I don't think you need to go through a full credentialing process if you have life experience, if you have some listening skills, if you have some experience in your own professional development of listening and being there and supportive. But I do think coaching school for many people can really support the learning that they already love. I mean, coaches are curious creatures by nature, right? So they want more. But I don't know that all of a sudden a coaching school makes you the best coach you can be. I think that's practice, practice, practice.
Right. Absolutely. I would agree with you there from my experience of working with coaches who are ICF certified. I find this, I'm trying to think of the right word. Like, it's just very reassuring when I'm around them. And I find them using a certain language. And that kind of puts them all on this level that I have an understanding that they've gone through these processes. They've gone through this education. They're going to come from a different perspective because of their training than I would, although I may have more knowledge on how to market your business and everything. What would it be like? And this is what propelled me, if I could meld that with proper coaching skills.
Sure. I look at it this way, Meg. I think there's times when we, as sort of consultants or subject matter experts, think to ourselves, well, just do it. I mean, it's just, all you have to do is log on to Facebook, click live on Facebook Live and go. And I think there's this thing that's so beautiful in coaching that reminds us as coaching, if they could, they would. So what is holding them back from doing it? We may think at times it could be that it's absolutely, they just don't know where the hell the button is for Facebook Live. Okay, that can happen. But my gut says it's more than that, right? And maybe that's what you're feeling when you're in and around coaches, when we're having those coaching conversations, is that we dig in deeper. There's more to it. It's not that you're not motivated. You're probably scared of something. What are you fearful of? How can we navigate that, own it, work through it? All of those beautiful things for sure can be really powerful.
I think the learning of the power of the question is something that keeps coming up for me when I'm around all the brilliant coaches at FromWithin Coaching. They ask such powerful questions, and it just blows me away time and time again.
Thank you. That's great.
I want to turn to, you are a mentor coach.
Yeah.
So I want you to talk a little bit about that, but then, so if somebody is interested in being a coach, but they're just overwhelmed by the information, is that something you can help them navigate? And then B, just talk a little bit about being a mentor coach and what's involved in that.
There's what I want to do is be very specific. So I am an ICF mentor coach. What that means, and we're going to talk about this in length, is the ICF credentialing experience. We may not get it to today, but we're absolutely going to talk about it. ICF is great. It basically says, not only will you go to school, not only do you need to have a certain number of practice hours, but we want you to sit with a coach who's going to be able to support you almost like a tutor, and really help you go after your blind spots, because most likely you're going to identify them in school. But how do I get past that blind spot? How do I work through that? And there's competencies that we'll talk about that the ICF holds us to, that the mentor coach really wants to make sure that every part of that coaching, those competencies show up. So it's a very specific thing that an ICF mentor coach does. However, as a mentor coach, just a good old-fashioned mentor coach, I am absolutely the coach that helps you get out of your own way. How do I start a business? How do I find clients? How do I choose my coaching school? Because my God, there's thousands of them.
That's a huge one. Yeah.
And every one of them, type in coaching school, and every one of them is designed to make you feel that you are less than, that you don't have what it takes to be a coach, and you better go to school. And that's pretty provocative for me to say in the coaching world, but it's marketing, right? It is absolutely marketed to, you don't have enough. Work with us in our full program and you'll get better. Right. And I think that there are coaches that I've worked with in the past that have 20, 30 years of HR experience, phenomenal professional development. And they say to me, I can't coach somebody. I've never gone to coaching school. And I think to myself, really? All I have to do is hand you the phone with this, the leader struggling with an employee, and you'd be able to easily coach them through.
Right.
Right. So there's that sort of thing that happens. But as a mentor coach, often in the beginning, what I do is help people decide, number one, should they go to school? What's important? And I'll give you this example. prior to the pandemic, we used to have these things called cocktail parties. Remember those things? Is I would be somewhere and someone would say, Amy, what do you do? And I don't know that I'd ever say I'm a coach. What I'd say is I help people get out of their own way, because it's just
Right.
kind of a fun thing, or, get their butt out of the way. And, the butt is, but no one would pay me to do that, or, but
Right.
that's not even
Right.
possible. Right. And they'd say to me, you're a coach. And I'd say, yeah. And then they'd say, where did you go to school?
Huh.
And I'd smile and laugh and say, you're a coach, aren't you? And they'd get all shocked. How did you know? And I say, because nobody knows what the hell coaching schools are, or where, nobody knows what CTI versus IPEC is outside of the coaching world.
They don't
Nobody
care.
knows.
Right.
We know what Harvard is
Right.
versus a community school.
Right.
Would you know what IPEC is versus CTI versus Coachville? No. So the
Right.
only people that say to me, where'd you go to school, are absolutely people that have gone to school.
Coaches.
So I just want to say that I've never had, in all the time that we've worked with CEOs and HR partners, rarely did they say to me, what is your level of accreditation and where did you go to school?
Right.
It's that feeling that you have of, does this person understand me? Do they
Mhm.
understand my business? Do they understand, maybe they've gone through something like this? It's a get it factor. That is what sells coaching, not whether you went to this school or that school. Or I do think that as a profession, as we get older, because we're basically 40 plus years old, so we're quite young, it will become more and more normal to hear some of these coaching school names. But
Right.
you know, there no one knows these schools. And so it can be really overwhelming to even decide, should I go to school? Do I do a full program? How do I pick my school? And that's something that as a mentor coach, I love helping people do. And I have no affiliation with a school. I don't
Right.
teach for a school. I think that's super important because I want to make sure, again, here's that ethical side of me as a coach.
Yeah.
When I make a recommendation for somebody to go check out 3 schools, it's not because I'm associated with one of them. So
Right.
that's a great example of real clear ethical lines that we have
Yeah.
in coaching and have to maintain. So
No, that's so good. Thank
was
you
that
for sharing all
helpful? Do
that.
you think I missed
So
anything
helpful
in terms
because
of?
my little inside joke, and I don't think I've shared this with you, is that I thought the ICF was a coaching school. Like I
Yeah.
thought that was the little building like Yale, next to Yale, where the
Yeah.
coaches went.
You know what? That
So,
and let's
and I think that's commonplace when you see somebody get an accreditation from, like I got a social media certification from the Syracuse journalism school, journalism
yes.
marketing. So it's like, yeah, there's a physical building there. I didn't actually go there. I did it online, but yeah, I think, so I think it's probably pretty common if I thought that there's people out there that think that.
Sure. And let me clarify, because I think that it's perfect to perfect sort of segue, is ICF as the self-proclaimed governing body have worked with a certain set of schools to say, here are the competencies that are important that every coach should have and follow.
Mhm.
And the schools say, awesome, we agree. That's what we're going to teach. That's our curriculum. And so they've created a partnership together. So when you see an ICF school, it means that it's been blessed by the governing body.
Right.
Again, self-proclaimed governing body. And that it's gone through some pretty rigorous hoops that the school has had to jump through, and that you'll have to jump through as a student of those to hit certain marks.
Mhm.
It does not mean, so for example, Martha Beck, God bless her, a phenomenal coach. She was Oprah Winfrey's coach, like just
Yes.
a fantastic coach, world famous coach, did not have ICF as a school. She has a school. It's a
Right.
great school. She teaches competencies that are so similar to the ICF, but she didn't need the ICF's blessing to
Right.
coach and to coach coaches. She has recently, within the last couple of years, become an ICF coaching school. But I just want to say that the ICF is a sort of, that the school is legit. That the school has gone through some pretty big hoops to jump through, or in some cases, really tiny hoops that are hard to jump through.
Right, right.
But that does not mean schools that are not ICF certified aren't great schools.
Right.
Right. And depending on the coach and what they're looking for, it's about best fit for schools, what they're teaching, how they teach, virtual, hybrid, in person, what's the language that they use,
Right.
who are they, the kinds of coaches that they're trying to train, executive versus life coach versus wellness. That'll all make a difference. That's what's most important, is finding a good fit school wise first.
Right.
If they're an ICF school, we'll talk more about what that means down the line. But just like finding your own coach, it's about fit.
Right. No, that's so well said. And we're probably going to wrap up here now for our first segment, but this has been such phenomenal information, and I know it is very confusing, so we'll keep on digging into this and talking about it. So I find that, and I think you get the sense too, that there's so many experts out there that are leaving their corporate jobs and are looking into coaching because people are telling them, share what you know. And the coaching industry is one that is projected to be in the multiple $1 billion. I don't have the figure right in front of me. I'm sure it's on your page somewhere, but it's just going to keep growing. So we wanted to get these videos out to help them make a decision, reach out to people like you and your organization to find out more. So we will drop in the channel below all the details, how to get in touch with you, and follow down that path if they so choose to get certified as a coach or go to coaching school.
Keep the questions coming, Megan. I think
Great.
this is so important for us to have an honest conversation where it is not about us making money on these answers, right? This is just about really just clarity in all of the loud that's being thrown at that coach, potential emerging coach. So I love you doing this. Thanks so much.
No, thanks for joining me today, Amy.